Wow, what's up? How are we doing today in the big D G G? Sure about the Hassan viewer? I did indeed. I had to bought like a carpet for my streaming area, so I had to tear everything apart and put everything back together last night. I wrapped. My cords are all so neatly managed. I've got my new GPU installed. I removed some extra. My area is so clean. My God. Wait, I'm gonna get my, hold on. Ugh. Yeah, apparently House of Dragon went real bad. So f all of you guys that were telling me to watch that show. You're not live on Kick. You're right. Oh, I picked the wrong thing. Maybe this? Wait, my... Uh-oh, hold on. NVIDIA AV1 should be the... Click OK. Okay, let's see if we can restart OBS real quick. One sec. Oh, never mind. I'm dumb. I think I understand. Twitch and Kick probably don't support AV1. That's why, right? I don't think I can use that encoder. That is, yeah, that was fine. Okay, duh. All right, whatever. We got it on YouTube. Whoa. Did you get a bullshit A7000 bullshit Quadro? No, I got the bullshit A4000 some bullshit. I don't know. Here, watch this while I figure out how I get this Kick thing working.
You might have heard about Project 2025. It's the handmaiden-esque conservative plan to reshape the federal government under the next presidential administration. It was created by the conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, and has deep connections to the Trump administration. But of course, it's so sweeping and draconian that even Donald Trump has had to try to attempt to distance himself from it. It's 900 pages of crazy pants insanity. And while Trump has said he doesn't know anything about it, it could form the backbone of his next presidency. Honestly, there was only one person who could do justice to the rage-inducing, sweeping legal and governmental changes.
Does he have a cold?
That Project 2025 is seeking to implement. Chaos lawyer Liz Dye.
Thanks, Devin. I've spent the past couple weeks poring over this manifesto, and I think I've got a pretty good handle on it. These guys really, really hate immigrants and pronouns, and they love local control. Well, unless the locality wants to let women control their own bodies, or treat undocumented immigrants like human beings, or be nice to gay and trans kids. Also, they're really mad about porn. The introduction refers to 4 broad fronts that will decide America's future. Number 1, restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Number 2, dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Number 3, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Number 4, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. What makes these 4 pieces of the conservative promise so valuable to the next president is that they cut through superficial distractions and focus on the moral and foundational challenges America faces at this moment of history.
Yes.
And okay, who doesn't want to protect children, right?
I
mean, raise your hand if you hate freedom.
Bueller.
But as always, the devil is in the details. And you don't have to—
Wait a second. Hold on. Is there something I don't know about? We're running a poll on this one. Bro, why is my kick shit not working? Oh no. It's cutting in and out. Why? What? I only got 37%? Fuck you guys.
But as always, the devil is in the details. And you don't have to scroll very far to figure out what those details are. Because on the very next page, these guys tell you very clearly that they think America's problems could be solved if everyone would just get married and stay that way. Who's to blame for what ails us? Unmarried mothers, because there is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church, and high school dropouts. That's a bold claim, although they cite no source for it. Nor is it clear what role the government should play in ensuring that children stay in the church. And anyway, how is the government going to convince parents to stay married? They're going to cut food stamps, obviously, because if you can feed your children without a husband, then, and then they're going to delete the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, gender equality, gender equity,
Base,
gender awareness,
hello.
gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights from every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. After that, they'll outlaw porn. And then they're going to ban abortion nationwide and deport 20 million undocumented people, and then we'll all live happily married ever after. Also, tax cuts for big business and the 1%. Oh, and they're going to cut all funding for PBS and the Center for Public Broadcasting because Big Bird. Okay, guys, glove up. We're going in. Project 2025 is a plan to reshape the entire country using the power of the federal government. It's got a chapter on how they plan to reform every major agency of the executive branch. And so it's a little weird that the document mentions abortion 199 times, because it's been illegal for the federal government to fund abortion since 1971, with exceptions for rape, incest, and to protect the life of the pregnant person. The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision in 2022, theoretically returning the issue of abortion to the states. So how can abortion figure so prominently in a blueprint for federal policy? One of the main things these guys want to do is ban abortion nationwide. So the document contemplates all the ways that the federal government can use its power over education, insurance, labor regulations, and healthcare to ensure that no one can access abortion anywhere in America. And they want to wield foreign aid to try and make sure that no one in the rest of the world has access to abortion either. As with most of Project 2025, the chapter on their plans for the Department of Health and Human Services was written by a Trump administration alum. In this case, Roger Severino, who worked at the Justice Department under Donald Trump. He believes that we should eliminate the HHS Reproductive Health Care Access Task Force and install a pro-life task force to ensure that all of the department's divisions seek to use their authority to promote the life and health of women and their unborn children. Additionally, HHS should return to being known as the Department of Life by explicitly rejecting the notion that abortion is health care. Abortion is a complicated issue. People of good faith can disagree here, but the problem with Project 2025 is that it pretends the issue is not complicated. Even states like Texas, which ban abortion completely, have a provision in the law providing an exception to protect the life and health of the mother. Because in fact, some women will die or suffer grave health consequences if they cannot access abortion. Whether that provision in the law actually ensures access to care is another matter. Some pregnancies are the result of rape or incest, and most Americans think it should be legal for women to access abortion in those tragic circumstances. But Project 2025 simply pretends all that away with ominous references to the global abortion industry, as if there was a company called Big Abortion that was advertising 2-for-1 deals on every platform to get you to come down to the abortionplex and hop into the stirrups for another round. Severino wants the CDC to fund studies into the risks and complications of abortion and ensure that it corrects and does not promote misinformation regarding the comparative health and psychological benefits of childbirth versus the health and psychological risks of intentionally taking a human life through abortion. And he plans to, quote, drive investigative review of literature for a variety of issues, including the effect of abortion on prematurity and breast cancer. But there is no link between abortion and breast cancer, and there's no link between abortion and depression. And that's not how science works. You don't start with your preferred policy position and then go and try and create studies to back it up.
What?
But Project 2025 isn't just waiting for evidence to come in before implementing its policy goals. They want to reverse the FDA authorization of mifepristone, the most commonly used drug for medication abortions. They claim that it's untested and unsafe, despite the fact that it was approved in America in 2000 and has been in use in France since the 80s. They want to ban mailing mifepristone across state lines under the Comstock Act, which, okay, more on that in a second. Project 2025 wants the federal government to discourage abortion tourism, by which they mean they intend to stop women in states which ban abortion from crossing state lines to get the care they need. They also want to block any federal money going to organizations like Planned Parenthood, which provides both abortion care and a whole array of other health services. So if you want to be screened for breast or cervical cancer at Planned Parenthood, well, you are just out of luck. And you know, if you don't want people to invoke the Handmaid's Tale when they're talking about your program, maybe don't use the words abortion surveillance and complain that the government isn't tracking abortions closely enough.
Wow. That's crazy, chat.
Leave me alone!
America first. Stop sending money to Ukraine. Text it now.
Text it now.
Hit the music. Recently there was a huge internet outage in Russia, and while you would think that this would not affect the global internet very much, it did. For a couple of hours we gained freedom and our sanity back. Literally everyone on Twitter was saying, oh my god, have you guys noticed since internet is down in Russia, the website is not flooded with spam and blue check marks posting Russian propaganda. Oh my god, I'm free. A lot of you might not know this, but most people who post things like America first, stop sending money to Ukraine are Russian bots trying to spread Russian propaganda. And all this is achieved by the Z equivalent of ChatGPT. Let me...
Oh boy. Okay, hold on. I'm about to jump into this call. Pray for my sanity. Pray for my brain, okay? I want to believe, guys, okay? I want to believe. Asylum is required by international law, correct? Arguably it is, but I don't think people know exactly what it has to look like. It's a hard... I don't think anybody's like tested it that much before. But it's also, it might even be part of international law too, or I'm sorry, domestic law too, because people were saying they were going to challenge Trump and Biden, I think, in the courts, depending on what they do. So, but I don't know if we know the answer to that. I think that the easiest way to tell, and these people are just racist, okay? The easiest way to tell when people are racist is if they don't have like an actual answer for anything, right? I actually think we should have a really secure border. I don't like that there are so many ways to get into this country illegally. I think the asylum process is really broken. And actually, I even agree that there should be like core cultural values related to being American that I think you should have to have in common with us if you're going to immigrate here. Like, I'm not necessarily opposed to having some kind of like English proficiency test or whatever. I'm not opposed to like having to show some sort of like cultural aptitude or whatever to move here. I'm not actually opposed to that. But like I can get like really far into the weeds on a lot of those different things. Like what types of civics should you be aware of? What types of values should you broadly have? How would we measure these like coming into, like I could talk about all these things. But when somebody's like, I can't tell if it's just the racist people in the audience that don't want to hear it or if anybody can perceive it or not. But when I'm asking questions, okay, because I know there's a lot of like retards out there for the 75 IQ people, I ask a question, I'm like, what kind of cultural values are you trying to protect? And then like I see people in chat like, do you not think they have a culture? Yeah, they do. I'm just, when you say cultural values, you don't know any fucking Danish people. I've probably been into Copenhagen and the Daneland, okay, more than any of these fuckers have. So when you say Danish cultural values, what are you talking about? Or when you say British cultural values, what are we talking about? Or American cultural values, what are we talking about? What would you test on? Well, you don't have any answers to any of these questions. And all you do is harp on mass migration over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what I'm dealing with. I don't know what I'm supposed to even say. Like, what is the answer? I don't even know what the problem is. Because the only solution people have given are stop mass migration and deport mass migrants. I don't know what that means. Okay. Jesus. Haven't thought about this much, but what would be the problem with requiring documentation/passport when you arrive or else you get rejected? I mean, if you're trying to come through a traditional manner, then that would make sense. The problem is, if you're coming here through like if you're an asylum seeker or a refugee, and if you're truly trying to escape, like a genocide or some shit like that. The idea that we would rob you at the border of your jewelry or like kick people out for not having enough documentation, like that's not the whole point of the asylum seeking process. Like the idea that people are trying to shore up fiscal losses by taking jewelry from people that are genuinely seeking asylum, and they are, that's like unhinged. That's just not like what refugeedom or asylum seeking should be for. If people are coming to immigrate here to work and shit, then yeah, you should be a net contributor to the country. For Melina to apply for a green card and shit, I had to prove that I had the financial means to support her and that she wasn't going to come here and be a drag and all that shit. I think that's fine. I think that's an okay thing to prove. You wouldn't want a ton of people immigrating in just to eat your social services or whatever. I think that's totally fine. That makes sense. But for asylum seekers or refugee people, like imagine we're, in the 40s. Oh shit, sorry, because the people that hear this the most probably don't even think the Holocaust happened. But for those few of you that are racist and think the Holocaust happened, I don't know how many of you are left, right? If somebody's coming to your country, like say in the 40s, okay, trying to escape the Holocaust, am I looking at a Jew and I'm like, well, fuck, it's going to be a big drain to have you in my country. I think I've got to kick you out. Like that's just not what like asylum seeking is for. It's just not an appropriate like understanding of that process. Sorry, but asking a poor asylee who is probably escaping the imperial problems created by the United States To conform in any way is just as dumb and fascist adjacent. I don't know. Okay. I'm glad I still have at least one commie left in my audience. LOL, so Destiny is basically saying that we do actually do some of the things AGW is asking for as far as preventing people from being a drain on the system. One thing that I told you guys, this heuristic worked for me 8 years ago, and it still works today. Anybody that lumps is such an easy way to understand who you're dealing with. Anybody that speaks about refugees and asylum seekers, legal immigrants, and illegal immigrants as the same category of people are always just racist. That's it. Don't stress your brain trying to figure out more what they mean or what they say. They're always just racist. These three groups of people are completely different, and they should be treated completely different, right? The goals that we would have, and they are in the U.S. Code for how you deal with like different classes of immigrants, right? People that want to immigrate to the country legally should be like selected for. These are people that come to the United States, and you should pick and choose, like, you know, what kind of immigrants do we want? What make this country a better place? Who do we want to share this country with the world? Like, these are good things. Everybody should be asking this. Illegal immigrants should be prevented as much as possible from getting into the country. You need to have a strong border. You don't want people getting here that you don't know anything about. You don't want people sneaking in for criminal matters. And just in general, it's good to have people documented. You want to have like social security numbers. You want to be able to track people paying their taxes, and you want to be able to have like information and records and everything. Like, it's good. So you don't want illegal immigrants at all. The legal immigrants you come here, you want to select for. And then for these other special classes of people, you would treat them differently. If there's like a humanitarian disaster, say tomorrow, you know, like Mexico has a volcano explode and half the country gets covered in lava and you've got people running to the border, you know, seeking refugee for a little bit, right? You're not going to be like, well, come in here. I need to do a full background check to make sure that you're like a high skilled worker. Like, that's just not what that process is for. You wouldn't use that process for that. That doesn't make sense. It's inappropriate. It doesn't make any sense it's just a bad application of it. And when people speak broadly of like all these categories as being the same, asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, and legal immigrants, it makes me wonder, like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, nobody has an issue with people following the law. I'm sorry, but if you support Donald Trump, who's like a 33-time fucking felon, and you're saying shit like that, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out. Conservatives completely abandon you're no longer my goal right now for law and order is I want Democrats to focus more on the law and order thing. Conservatives have lost their claim on law and order. You can never claim it, not for at least like 10 or 20 years. You've completely lost any high ground when it comes to law and order. You want a king with criminal immunity, and you've got a guy who's like a fucking multi-win, you know, championship fucking 34 felon holder. You have no say or no claim anymore about what's legal or not legal or anything related to law and order. So sorry. The people you spoke to were pretty wrong about UK immigration. To get any real visa status in the UK that isn't a temporary worker or school visa, you need to pass tests about British culture. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Yeah. I was going to talk about the origination of the stories and the fake news shit. I'm not prepared to discuss the entire British immigration system, but I do know that like it's always a really big red flag when you ask for links and people give you links to like Twitter accounts, and then like a blog by like a very, very far right immigration person. I was like, do we have like any it's not necessarily bad and it's not necessarily wrong, but it's a little sussy baka. Makes me wonder. But how do you deal with these people who speak like this without providing any facts or sources and refusing to use? Well, you should though. You should be knowing the debate ahead of time. I didn't know that the conversation was going to get this extensive. I don't give a fuck. But technically, I shouldn't probably have accepted this if I wasn't ready to come and fight on like every single point relating to immigration. More in line about the Greek camp situation. The reason the camps got burned down was because the camps were unironically being made open-air prisons, ironically, unlike the Gaza claim shit. I don't know. She might have mentioned that, but I really don't know. I shouldn't be reading comments. I'm not actually sure what's true or not. The guy that you debated last night got Audit the Audited when he got arrested? Wait, really?
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers prior restraints, the seizure of evidence, and Miranda rights, and is brought to us by Witsit Gets It's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Policy Genius. Summer is coming to a close, and there's never been a better time to take care of all those responsibilities you've been putting on hold and getting life insurance done now. If you have anyone who relies on your financial...
Do you see the IBA conference? Think it's legit, or do we wait to see if it's BS? The IBA, I think, has a lot of questionable... Their history is, like, pretty tarred over the past, I think, like, decade and a half with, like, scandals and stuff. But I haven't, like, deep dug into it yet either, so I can't say, like, with 100% certainty. So that's like a 35 to 40% conviction take.
Financial support. Whether it's a child, aging parent, or even a business partner, you need life insurance. And Policy Genius makes it super easy to compare quotes from over a dozen top insurers all in one place. In minutes, you can work out how much life insurance coverage you need and compare personalized quotes to find your best price. And the licensed experts at Policy Genius are there to help you navigate every step of the shopping and buying process. You could save $1,300 or more per year on life insurance by using Policy Genius to compare policies. Eligible applicants can get covered in as little as a week, thanks to an award-winning policy option that swaps the standard medical exam requirement for a simple phone call. This exclusive policy was recently rated #1 by Forbes, higher than options from Ladder, Ethos, and Bestow. With unparalleled customer service, it's no wonder that Policy Genius has earned thousands of 5-star reviews across Trustpilot and Google. Head over to policygenius.com/audit the audit to get started right now. Thanks again to Policy Genius for sponsoring this episode. On August 4th, 2021, YouTuber, activist, and flat Earth advocate Austin Whitsitt live streamed himself voicing his beliefs into a loudspeaker on the Grandview Terrace at Mount Rushmore in Pennington County, South Dakota. Before beginning his speech, Mr. Whitsitt informs his audience that he has already had altercations with park rangers in the area for the very same conduct. Approximately 22 minutes into his speech, 2 park rangers approach Mr. Whitsitt and order him to disband his speech.
Hello, sir. How are you?
What's up, man?
How you doing now?
I'm doing good.
All right. So we're just coming back.
Yeah.
Want to give you every opportunity. We have the permit paperwork if you'd like to apply for a permit. We have your regulations showing you that this is not an approved area. Would you like to move?
No.
Okay.
All right. What's the decibel?
So, well, no, I'm citing you for engaging in activity.
Well, let me see the. Do you know how the law works?
So what I'm asking, I'm going to need your ID.
I don't have to give you my ID. Are you detaining me?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay. For what? What suspicion of what crime?
If you fail to identify yourself, you're going to be detained.
So to detain me, you have to actually ID me to detain me.
I just have to cite you.
No.
So I'm citing you with 36 CFR 1.6.
Which says what?
For failing to engage or failing to get a permit for an activity.
So can I see this? Can I see the ordinance?
Yes.
The Rangers inform Mr. Whitsitt that he is violating Section 1.6 of...
Oh, fuck. Does this same thing carry over from schools? So I think in college, I don't have time. I should off-stream read it. The Supreme Court case. It's a Supreme Court case on freedom of speech in public colleges. And I think that the Supreme Court ruled that colleges can't ban the type of speech, but a public school has the right to regulate, I think it's time, manner, and place within a reasonable thing. So the standard is, would you have a standard on that? Would it be like rational basis? I don't know if this would get like a scrutiny standard or something, but like I think it's like a time, manner, and place restriction for what a school is allowed to. Can I get these to never show up again? I don't ever want this dog shit fucking AI bullshit to ever show up on my fucking screen. To survive a First Amendment constitutional challenge, such restrictions must satisfy a 3-pronged test outlined by the Supreme Court in Ward v. Rock against racism. The regulation must be content neutral, it must be narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest, it must leave open ample alternative channels for communicating the speaker's message. Control the volume of amplified music at rock concerts in Central Park. Okay. Decision clarified that time, place, and manner regulations on speech do not have a limit Or do I not have to limit speech in the least restrictive? Okay. There's, because I know, like, for instance, for schools, like, you can tell, like, colleges are allowed to tell you you're not allowed to protest outside here if we're, like, having a graduation ceremony. Like, they can dictate the time, manner, and place. Or they can, I think they can say, like, no, they can say, like, no, like, set a curfew, basically, on campus. No protests after midnight and before 6 a.m. But they wouldn't be allowed to say, they can't dictate content. They can't say no Nazi protests or no BLM protests, I believe. Do you think it might be different per state? No, I think this is just, like, this is like a Supreme Court guidance on this, I think.
Of Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations by demonstrating without a permit, and attempt to provide him with a copy of the permit application. This section of the code states that the official in charge of a national park, quote, may issue a permit to authorize an otherwise prohibited or restricted activity or impose a public use limit, and prohibits, quote, engaging in an activity subject to a permit requirement imposed pursuant to this section without obtaining a permit. Additionally, Section 2.51 of Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations governs when the national parks allow individuals to participate in quote-unquote demonstrations, such as, quote, picketing, speech-making, marching, holding vigils or religious services, and all other like forms of conduct that involve the communication or expression of views or grievances which is reasonably likely to attract a crowd or onlookers. The regulation allows groups of fewer than 26 individuals to demonstrate in certain locations that the park is designated as available for demonstrations without a permit, but groups of 26 or more are required to obtain a permit. Groups of 25 or fewer must also obtain a permit to demonstrate outside these designated areas in a national park. The Mount Rushmore National Memorial has designated 6 locations where individuals or groups are allowed to exercise their First Amendment rights through a demonstration. For example, the amphitheater just below the terrace where Mr. Whitsitt was speaking is a designated free speech zone where he could have demonstrated without a permit. However, the Grandview Terrace where Mr. Whitsitt was speaking is not a designated demonstration area. So, as the Rangers explained, he could not legally demonstrate there without a permit. This restriction on speech through a permit requirement, which is known as a prior restraint, would likely be constitutional in this context. As we have discussed many times on ATA, the amount of protection that speech receives from the First Amendment varies depending on the location where an individual is speaking, with speech in traditional public forums receiving the most protection and speech in non-public forums receiving the least. In the 2010 case of Bordley versus U.S. Department of the Interior, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit rejected the argument that Mount Rushmore was a traditional public forum, stating that, quote, Mount Rushmore does not become a public forum merely by being called a national park, any more than it would be transformed into a non-public forum if it were labeled a museum. The dispositive question is not what the forum is called, but what purpose it serves, either by tradition or specific designation. Therefore, a reasonable content-neutral restriction, such as the permit requirement, would likely be justified by the National Park Service's interests in, quote, avoiding interference with the park's activities and the operation of park facilities, and preserving peace and tranquility in the parks. However, it is important to note that the Bordley Court also decided that a park's First Amendment zones were, quote, designated public forums, which means that any restrictions in those areas would be subject to a higher level of scrutiny. In fact, the court in this case actually concluded that a prior version of Section 2.51 of Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations that did not allow small groups to demonstrate in these areas without a permit was an unconstitutional prior restraint on free speech.
What's up?
Do you have an ID?
Am I being detained?
Yes.
Okay, so suspicion of what crime?
You are engaging in an activity that requires a permit.
Can I see the law then?
Yes. Let's go over here.
Why are you trying to move me away from my camera to cite it? You're being really weird.
Take a camera.
No, you can just show it to me right now.
Here, there's a whole bunch of...
Oh, wow, okay. So this is a much... I don't know if Audit the Audit hates cops. I don't think he hates cops. I think he's a little bit too harsh sometimes. But that's good. Straightforward answers. You are being detained. Am I being accused of committing a crime? Yeah, we feel like you are. And then he answers directly like what he is. And then I don't know what these papers are for, but maybe it's...
Don't touch me.
So
To detain me, you have to articulate suspicion of crime.
yes, we've tried. You keep interrupting. We offered you...
So can I see it? You haven't even cited it yet. You haven't cited the ordinance yet.
36
What does it say? Specifically, read it.
I'm not required to
Yeah,
do
you are.
that.
Yeah, you are.
I don't think a cop is even required to tell you why you're detained or arrested. I don't believe. I think you only have to be presented with charges by a judge after they formally charge you with a crime. I think. I said that before. Nobody correct me on it, so I think that's true.
Negative. So
Did you read the ordinance?
engaging in an activity requiring a permit.
Okay, so specifically, which part of what we're doing requires the permit?
Audio device.
Okay, so what's the
Audio,
decibel reading?
Banner. You can't have it at all.
So can I see the law?
Yes. Just trying to explain this.
I want to see the law.
So what I'm going to need is your ID. I'm going to need you to give me your name and date of birth, state of your island.
I need to see the law. Are you not listening?
What we're going to do, if you fail to identify yourself, I'm going to arrest you for refusing to identify yourself.
Wow.
Number 2, I'm going to confiscate all of this as evidence.
After Mr. Whitsitt refuses to identify himself, the Rangers threaten to arrest him for failure to identify and to confiscate his video equipment. U.S. Park Rangers are federal law enforcement officers, which means they are generally authorized to enforce both federal laws and the laws of the state where the park is located. Additionally, Section 102701 of Title 54 of the United States Code permits Rangers to conduct investigations of offenses against the United States committed in the national park system. While the Rangers were certainly acting within their investigative authority by requesting that Mr. Whitsitt identify himself, they could not lawfully arrest him for refusing refusing to do so, as neither the federal laws nor South Dakota's state laws criminalize failure to identify. However, a court would most likely conclude that the Rangers had probable cause to arrest Mr. Whitsitt
Because he was suspected of committing a crime and he wasn't quite, yeah.
for demonstrating without a permit. And since the video equipment was used during the offense, sees it as evidence.
Yeah.
In the 1959 case of Draper versus United States, the Supreme Court determined that if police officers have probable cause to arrest an individual without a warrant, they may also search and seize related evidence during the arrest, holding that the officer in...
I'm a big fan, don't get me wrong. I have watched Destiny for a long time. But how do you know the political climate of the EU? I don't know the political climate of the EU. When I'm arguing with people about this type of shit, I don't know any of the policies on the books. But you can poke, like, I can't fight on the factual level because I just don't know the facts. But you can use other heuristics to try to figure out like what the other person is talking about. When a person is like shooting you links from like weird Twitter accounts, and when the person can't articulate like any particular specific thing, but instead they just have like a bunch of quotes or whatever, like usually at the very least you could tell the type of research that a person is doing about a particular issue. And then when they're citing to some things, I do have like broad knowledge or understanding of economics, especially relating to immigration. When people are broadly citing things that I know for a fact are economically untrue, like the idea that immigrants hurt your economy, it's like one of the dumbest statements of all fucking time. Even like your big economists that will argue against like immigration as being like, or not, they wouldn't argue against immigration, but your Borjases that'll argue that like immigration can depress certain types of local wages are not going to argue that it hurts your economy. It's just not true. It's an input to your economy. It's increasing your supply and your consumption in the economy. It will never hurt your economy. If you want to argue anything, maybe you argue just for fiscal impacts, but even that's probably not supported by the literature right now, in that they don't tend to hurt local budgets either, because they don't tend to be big consumers of welfare, because immigrants tend to be young people that work, and they're not old people that consume a fuck ton of healthcare like our old people do. So yeah, just the way that they speak and then the things that they bring up just makes it feel like very, very, very not, or whatever. That being said, there might be like there might be like really good arguments on that side that support like the position broadly that they're arguing for, but those people didn't know any of them, or weren't capable of articulating them.
In the case, quote, had probable cause and...
Asylum seekers can hurt your economy. At least it did in Sweden. Yes. Rewind. Where I spoke for 30 minutes about the difference between legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, and people like refugees and asylum seekers. Asylum seekers and refugees probably aren't supposed to boost your economy. That's not the point of taking in a refugee. Jesus Christ.
Reasonable grounds to believe that petitioner was committing a violation of the laws of the United States at the time he arrested him. The arrest was therefore lawful, and the subsequent search and seizure, having been made incident to that lawful arrest, were likewise valid. Generally, if the police seize an individual's non-contraband personal property as evidence for a criminal case, the government can hold it until the conclusion of the case, although in some situations, some personal items may be recovered if they are not relevant to the prosecution. Therefore, a court would likely uphold at least the initial seizure of the video equipment incident to Mr. Whitsitt's arrest.
Yeah, that's hope.
Do you believe it is valid for a country to ban immigration into the country even with refugees, or is there a moral obligation for countries to let refugees in? This is not a gotcha, just curious understanding that. I would say there's probably a moral obligation to support some number of refugees. Now, obviously not like a fuck ton. Like I think it's pretty understood now that Sweden probably took way too fucking many refugees in for whatever stupid cuck reason Sweden has for destroying their country. Or not destroying their country, but just for being dumb. But I mean, it feels like when I think of like refugees, I think of what I compare this to, like world taxes. Like we're all part of the United Nations. You've got, the UN Charter. There are things that we all agree to, and part of that is if there is a disastrous, horrible event in the world, then you want like to be able to move these people somewhere, and to people shouldn't just die en masse because countries aren't willing to help them out at all. I think that's an okay obligation to have to the world. The problem is as soon as you say refugee, it's already poisoned because people assume that you're talking about rape gangs of acidic, weapon wielding fucking Muslims that are trying to rape all of the 8-year-old girls and turn them into Sharia law, professing burqa wearing, rickets having, rape refugees. Like it's just not even. It's just stupid.
Big tough guy. So let me tell you what the law says. So whenever you have to come give a warning as to someone doing something illegal, and
I will say though, one thing I'm happy that these guys said that was very fucking annoying before is I always said I think that the big push for Brexit was because they wanted to be anti-immigrant. I think that anti-immigration was a huge push for Brexit. And it was funny to listen to all these guys say that openly when I feel like several years ago when we talked about Brexit, nobody wanted to fucking admit that.
Initial seizure of the video equipment incident to Mr. Whitsitt's arrest.
Yeah, that's called theft, big tough guy. So let me tell you what the law says.
No.
So whenever you have to come give a warning as to someone doing something illegal,
I gave it to you.
you have to cite the law and read what it says as when it's prohibited.
Engaging in activity requiring a permit.
So what part of it requires the permit?
Your audio device and your banner.
So can I read the law? Is that an unfounded request?
I'm not required to print out and show you.
You are required to cite the ordinance and say what it says. Okay, then I'll just research. I'll look it up. Say the ordinance again.
Keep your hands out of your pockets for me.
Say the ordinance again, buddy.
Do you have any weapons on you?
Say the ordinance again.
36 CFR 1.6.
36 CFR 1.6.
No.
This is hilarious. I have to do your job for you.
No problem. Sir, put your hands behind your back.
For what?
I'm going to take your phone. Put your hands behind your back.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. Put your hands
Wow.
behind your back. You're under arrest.
Maybe I'm retarded, but I always thought the main reason for Brexit was migration in the EU. Yeah, but it doesn't. It's just stupid. I'm not. It was just dumb. The problem is that like in the European Union, I think there's two things that I'm aware of. One is called the Eurozone, which means you use the European Union currency, the euro, which the Brits were exempted from, which is a very nice position to have. And you've got something called the Schengen Free Movement Zone. That's the area where if you're a part of the EU, you're supposed to be able to pass without a passport check. But the UK wasn't part of that either. So the idea that like the UK had to leave the European Union because they had no control of their borders was bullshit, which I feel like is evidenced by the fact that apparently they had a huge explosion in immigration right after they fucking left. That's the euro area, not the zone for currency. Wait, is it? I thought it was called. I thought the eurozone referred to the currency. The euro area, commonly called the eurozone. Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever heard euro area before. I feel like I always hear it called the eurozone. Aren't the Rangers correct here? Yeah, I think they are. Wouldn't Republicans not support the immigration bill due to its loaded foreign spending? No, they didn't say that, number one. And number two, I'm pretty sure that immigration bill got spun out as its own thing. It died because Donald Trump didn't want them to vote on it. I don't know why it's not contested. All the Republicans say this. Everybody says this. Nobody denies this. Nobody, it's not like a matter, it's not like you have to debate this or get into, it's like, I'm pretty sure by the end of this immigration bill, I think that I want to say it was spun out on its own as its own thing. I don't think it was like part of any other foreign spending. Oh my God, we've got commie mommy tweets.
And I regret that. So everybody who comes on this floor and says our border's broken, we should do something about it, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, we didn't get there. President Trump opposed a Senate bill. We couldn't find a better way forward that would get 60 votes. I hate that, but now we have to deal with what's left for us to take care of in the world. So I regret that.
Like none of this was like secret.
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
I'm extremely disappointed in the very strange maneuvering by many on the right to torpedo a potential border reform bill. If we have a bill that, on net, significantly decreases illegal immigration, and we sabotage that, that is inconsistent with what we told our voters we would do. But it would be a pretty unacceptable dereliction of your duty.
I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you.
But I would acknowledge President Trump failed, along with Republicans, Paul Ryan and the guys. They failed in 2018 to actually move a border security bill to tighten this so that we weren't dealing with this crisis right now. They failed to actually get the wall built. President Trump signed 12 continuing resolutions after he said he would never sign another one if they didn't give him the money to finish building the wall. Look, this stuff matters. It adds up. I call balls and strikes. This is not hard.
Speaker says that if one...
Why do you keep saying that? You mean the border bill that had $200 million to Ukraine in it? No, this didn't. And listen to all of these Republicans telling you why they voted no. They're saying it. They're literally saying it. You retarded fuck. Listen to them talk about why they're not voting for it.
Migrant comes across the border. That's one migrant too many, and your bill doesn't do enough to completely shut down the border.
Actually, it does completely shut down the border in many ways.
We can read Donald Trump's own words. Only a fool or a radical left Democrat would vote for this horrendous border bill, which only gives shutdown authority after 5,000 encounters a day, which we already have the right to close the border now, which must be done. This bill is a great gift to the Democrats and a death wish for the Republican Party. It takes the horrible job the Democrats have done on immigration at the border, absolves them, and puts it all squarely on the shoulders of Republicans. Don't be stupid. We need a separate border and immigration bill. It should not be tied to foreign aid in any way, size, shape, or form. It wasn't. This one wasn't. The Democrats broke immigration and the border. They should fix it. Make America great again. Like, everybody's talking about how Donald Trump is pressuring all of them to not vote on this. Nobody's contesting this. Nobody contests this. Why would you contest this when Donald Trump himself doesn't?
And I'll fight it all the way. I notice a lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully, they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay. Please blame it on me. Please.
I'm under arrest.
That's true too, and the foreign aid passed anyways. They passed the foreign aid regardless.
All you have to do is leave, man.
Yeah. This is public property, bro.
Brother, you had a chance.
I asked you just to show me the law, man.
You keep interrupting.
I asked to see the law, dude.
To you. You're gonna know what the law is when you get addressed to it in the court of law.
Are you kidding me right now?
No.
Why can't I just? Do you know it's illegal to not tell me what the law says?
And we've been trying. You keep interrupting.
I've asked you 30 times.
And I'm trying to explain it 30 times.
Okay, will you tell me what the law says then?
You need to stop. You need to stop.
Will you tell me what the law says?
You need to stop.
Mr. Whitsitt claims that the Rangers are legally required to verbally cite the law that they are issuing a citation for, and the Rangers disagree with his assertion. Contrary to popular belief, as the Supreme Court held in the 2004 case of Devin Peck versus Alford, quote, while it is assuredly good police practice to inform a person of the reason for his arrest at the time he is taken into custody, we have never held that to be constitutionally required. However, when an individual is arrested without a warrant, they must, quote, promptly be brought before a neutral magistrate for a judicial determination of probable cause, where they will learn what crime they are being charged with if they do not already know. While law enforcement officers are not required to inform suspects of the crime they're being arrested for, or recite the law they're suspected of violating, the Supreme Court case of Miranda versus Arizona identified certain information that officers must provide when they arrest an individual. In the landmark 1966 decision, the court identified 3 rights, commonly known today as Miranda rights, that arresting officers must inform suspects of before subjecting them to custodial interrogation. First, the court held that the suspect, quote, must first be informed in clear and unequivocal terms that he has the right to remain silent. Additionally, the court found that...
Is the promptly part defining right? No, it's just going to be like a reasonable... I guess it's probably within like a... Well, how long? Would this be called the arraignment period? Somebody said that. I wonder how long... What is the longest time for arraignment can be before you're read charges? It might be 60 to... Am I thinking 60 to 90 days? Or is that for an indictment to be issued? How long can police hold you without reading charges? That sounds really long. Somebody said 72 hours, somebody said 5 days. In Florida, police can hold someone for up to 48 hours without charges for certain serious crimes that they have good suspicion. Okay, that's Florida. This says 72 hours for whatever the fuck. Okay, maybe a few days.
That, quote, the warning of the right to remain silent must be accompanied by the explanation that anything said...
Letter of the law aside, is there a good reason why a cop shouldn't inform someone why they're being arrested? It could be a risk to the cop, sure. Like, let's say that you see somebody on the street and they're like a suspect in a murder crime, but that person doesn't know they've been like, figured out. And the cop comes up and starts talking and like says that they want to arrest him. I don't know if they can make some bullshit or they just don't want to say. I can understand why you might not necessarily want to tell somebody why you're arresting them and do it later. Maybe. Or maybe if you Why else? That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. Why else would it not be a requirement to articulate why you're arresting somebody? Well, maybe there's a reason for this. Why don't cops have to tell you why you're being arrested? The de-escalation process, or de-escalation purposes, some people freak out to avoid getting cuffed for something they disagree with. Yeah, but I bet there's a big write-up. There's got to be a good reason for it. I don't know. Or maybe we'll look at it a little later.
Can and will be used against the individual in court, and that, quote, an individual held for interrogation must be clearly informed that he has the right to consult with a lawyer and to have the lawyer with him during interrogation. An important aspect of the Miranda rights discussion that is often overlooked is that these warnings are only required before the police interrogate an arrested suspect. This means that if a suspect is interrogated in police custody without being given Miranda warnings, any incriminating statements they make during the interrogation cannot be admitted against them in court. However, there is no such remedy available if the arresting officer fails to Mirandize an individual who was arrested but not interrogated.
You just missed it, okay? Wow. Please just calm down, okay?
No, you refused to identify him.
Please.
No, I did not. I asked you to tell me what the law says.
Look. He was engaging a crime, engaging in activity, applying a permit. Setting up this speaker in the banner on the DVD.
Tyrants, dude.
After the Rangers arrested Mr. Whitsitt, the live stream continued for approximately 2.5 more hours as the Rangers escorted the videographer off the park, seized the speaker and the sign as evidence, and wrote the videographer a citation after he provided his ID. When Mr. Whitsitt was eventually released, he and the videographer returned to the terrace and filmed Mr. Whitsitt as he once again expressed his beliefs, this time speaking directly to the camera. There were no further incidents with the Rangers during this time. Overall, the Nash Chiefs, this time released, he and the video sign as evidence and wrote the videographer a citation after he provided his ID. When Mr. Whitsitt was eventually released, he and the videographer returned to the terrace and filmed Mr. Whitsitt as he once again expressed his beliefs, this time speaking directly to the camera. There were no further incidents with the Rangers during this time. Overall, the National Park Rangers get an A for actively working to de-escalate the situation, maintaining a calm and collected demeanor, and for remaining within the bounds of their authority throughout the interaction.
For having pretty sick-ass beard. Holy shit.
The park rangers were well within their authority to confront Mr. Whitsitt and order him to vacate the premises. And although they appeared to misunderstand South Dakota's lack of identification statutes, the Rangers had more than enough evidence to arrest Mr. Whitsitt nonetheless. The Rangers did their best to inform Mr. Whitsitt of which statute he was violating, and offered him more than one opportunity to leave without issue. They even printed out the codes and relevant permit forms and presented them to Mr. Whitsitt multiple times. Eventually, the Rangers were forced to arrest Mr. Whitsitt because he refused to provide the information necessary to issue a citation for the permit violation. But they allowed the videographer to leave after providing his ID and being issued a citation. The Rangers handled this stop with professionalism and did their best to calm Mr. Whitsitt down. I commend the Rangers for their patience and civility, and although their efforts to show Mr. Whitsitt the law were fruitless, I respect their dedication nonetheless. Mr. Whitsitt gets an F for unnecessarily escalating the encounter into an arrest, maintaining a hostile and condescending demeanor throughout the interaction, and for displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of free speech. Much of this interaction's escalation can likely be attributed to Mr. Whitsitt's failure to do his—
I would give him like a D. He didn't like attack anybody at least. Jesus. We gave him an F?
his due diligence in regards to public forums and the First Amendment, and his willingness to double down on his own ignorance. Mr. Whitsitt had all the necessary evidence at his disposal to prove that he was, in fact, in violation of federal regulations, but he chose to ignore it, and many members of law enforcement have been criticized for the same conduct on this very channel. If Mr. Whitsitt had simply walked a few feet down to the amphitheater, he could have avoided this interaction entirely, and I find it difficult to believe that he had multiple interactions with members of law enforcement prior to this interaction and was never informed of where the free speech zones were located. It is entirely possible that Mr. Whitsitt knowingly—
Audit the Audit is a globe-tard. He's globe-tarded. That's why he hates this guy. True.
Violated the permit law as a form of protest against free speech restrictions. But there are certainly more productive locations to express that notion than a monument that many fellow citizens have spent time and effort traveling to. Mr. Whitsitt demonstrated a complete disregard for the other individuals visiting the monument and lacked any serious understanding of the First Amendment and the law.
What's your take on the Dems that didn't support the border bill in May? Which border bill in May? What are we talking about?
Law in general. Being asked to speak at the same volume as everyone else in the room is not a form of censorship. And this interaction highlights the notion that the limitations of free speech can be just as valuable as its protections.
Is this the guy you debated
Let us know if
yesterday?
there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to check out my second channel for more police interaction.
In particular, I know that Austin will be very—
A flat earther. Wait, is this the quartering?
So I'm going to bring them in, and then—
in particular, I know—
Oh my god. A whole ass flat earth debate. Destiny, stay in Mexico for processing your asylum claim, yes or no? I'm sure I can think of like good arguments for and against. This is the— okay, listen, if you're a Republican, your brain isn't super rotted, okay? This is the only thing that I want to stress, okay? This is the only thing that I want to stress. When you're thinking about what the policy should be you're designing policy like assuming the system is working. You don't design policy for like rule breakers. So in my mind, because I can already think of the argument, counter argument, and then the counter argument. In my mind, okay, no. If somebody is genuinely seeking asylum or refugee from like a destroyed place or some like horrific activity or whatever, then whoever can provide them with asylum is probably like, you know, you should do that instead of forcing them to stay. I guess maybe there's an argument where, I guess it would depend on how well Mexico could support like asylum seekers or refugees, or maybe it would depend on the numbers. But as soon as you say that, people's minds instantly go to like, oh, so you think that economic migrants are blah, blah, blah. No, those people you wouldn't want to ever be able to like plead asylum. Those you wouldn't want those people. I don't think that you should be able to seek asylum by going to whatever country you want, though. So like if there's like a horrible flood in Pakistan again or something, I don't think you should be able to like fly all the way to the United States to seek asylum. That doesn't make much sense. But it can make sense if like a country is overwhelmed by asylum seekers. Like if there's a whole bunch of shit in Central America, maybe Mexico can't support anymore, so they come to the United States. I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. I think it would depend on I think it would depend on where they're coming from and how well the countries in between can support them. Yeah. You can't live in reality assuming there won't be any bad actors. Why would you design your policies that way? Okay, I think that every single cop should draw a gun and throw you to the ground and handcuff you and then arrest you every single time. Because why would you assume that when you deal with somebody that they're not lying about having murdered somebody? Or why would you assume when you're dealing with somebody that they're not running from a crime or they don't have an active warrant? You should arrest every single person. Because why wouldn't we design our policies assuming bad actors there? I think the IRS should tax 50% of your income. Why? Because everybody's going to lie and cheat on their taxes anyways. So why not just tax 50% just to be safe? It's like when your kid comes in the room, you ever just punch your kid in the face and they're like, bro, what the fuck? Why did you do that, Dad? And you're like, because I know you probably did some shit that I didn't catch you for, so I'm just kind of keeping you honest, right? I think that every single policy that we design in mind, all the totality of the policy should be designed around the worst case actor, and every single person should be subjected to all of the penalties and punishments thereof. That's so smart, bro. You're so ingenious. That's such a smart, ingenious way to talk about policy. God, Jesus, you're just huge IQ, huge brain. Like, it's exploding out of your ears. Good job. True.
It is very, I'm waiting for someone to write a deeper essay about this. Your portrayal of Lex Luthor completely anticipated what we're going through now with people like Elon and all these other damaged tech bro millionaires who have all the money and all the power, and they just want to be cool and liked, and they will destroy the world if they're not. You portrayed a type that hadn't really existed up to that point. There had always been the evil, confident tech billionaire that's totally cool, but we had never seen the ones that were so openly. There is something so tragic and almost sympathetic about Elon, who is...
Honestly, I really dislike how you're treating this Europe issue. This is the culmination of a decade of tension. And you're like, I don't know, either treat it with interest or just leave it. No, I'm going to make fun of you for sounding like a racist, uneducated dipshit. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to laugh at you the whole fucking time doing it. You might have legitimate grievances, but when your leaders are people like fucking Tommy shit Robinson, like that's your own fucking fault, retard. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? Why do you think BLM got nothing fucking done in the United States? Because the organization itself is a bunch of fat fucking scam artists, and because people were protesting for reforms in the police department that they didn't even understand how the police department worked, so nothing happened. The entire BLM movement was a whole waste of fucking time. And that fat fuck George Floyd that got killed, nobody fucking cares. Any other person that died because of it, nobody fucking cares. Nothing happened, nothing changed, because nobody understood how the system worked, and nobody understood what they were actually advocating for. I made fun of them for it, and I don't make fun of you for it. When you walk around and you just go, mass migration needs to stop. Yeah, people are gonna call you racist because you're fucking retarded. You're either retarded or racist, okay? Probably more likely to be retarded than racist, but I'll make fun of you for both, all right?
He's the evil, confident tech billionaire that's totally cool. But we had never seen the ones that were so openly... There is something so tragic and almost sympathetic about Elon, who is... He's the kid whose dad owns the rec center, and he wants to be invited there to play foosball, and he knows he can just walk in and but no one has ever invited him there. It is so amazing.
Thank you, I think. Right?
Well, no, it's an amazing portrayal, because there is always that weird... You play him very confident, but then there's that underlying thing of like, you'd better laugh at every joke I make. You better think like...
The coroner found George Floyd's body fat percentage to be around 12%. No shot. Shut the fuck up. If that's true, he would have like 1v7'd, okay, all of those cops with the fentanyl in his system, making a superhuman warrior. Jesus, fuck me Christ. What? I thought he was a fat dude. Am I misremembering? Maybe he was wearing a shirt. Hold on. Oh, damn. Maybe I am. Hold on. Hold on. We might have to do a natty or not. Maybe he just had a fat face. Yeah, true. Can these cops fucking get off his neck so I can see this dude? Jesus. Spoiler alert, they don't. Maybe he was... Oh, never mind. Okay. Maybe he was a pretty fit dude. He's got that fent energy. Because I see here where they're walking around with him and they have him arrested. I thought this guy was just like a chubby fat dude. And he always wears like baggy clothes. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that sleeper bill.
That Austin will be very eager to
You think of Eric Garner? No, I'm thinking of George Floyd. I remember the face. For some reason, I just thought he was a chubby fat guy. Like, fuck. Can I find a picture now? I feel like pictures like this are what I remember him most as. You got a lot of baggy clothes on. But then look at this dude. Damn. God damn. Okay. Natty or not? Who the fuck knows? Did August link you the new Kamala retardation? Oh shit. Do we have to go over this today? Nah, he's fat. Wait, why does George Floyd look lighter in this picture?